Welcome back to the ILFL Soccer Night show. Just before we get into the main meat of what we're going to discuss this evening, I just want to get Nanu and discuss something that happened with the Vets League. Like we said, we talk about it every week. There are one or two issues with the Vets League venue at the moment, which is out of our control. But we are pleased to say that there are going to be some fixtures, although the fixtures are going to be limited this week. That's right.
That's correct, David. Yeah, we have two pitches. We've managed to secure the pitches. That's not a problem at all. So the booking's fine. It's just that the electrical issues is ongoing, and there's nothing that we can do. And we're working, very, very closely with Hackney Council to make sure that the issue gets resolved as soon as possible. So what does that actually mean? It means that yes, there will be fixtures as per normal, except we won't be running at full capacity. So it's a good thing that we have another venue, secured venue, on a Monday that people are used to playing as well. That's the Stepney 3G pitch. So what we will be doing, for the time being, that is continue playing at Mabley Green, and for many fixtures as possible. And
that's
then
on
the
one
on the first day, and then we'll use the Monday's pitch to get the remaining fixtures going. So that way we'll have all of the teams pretty much playing.
And all of the information is on the website as well. Fixtures are up there on the website right now.
Correct, yeah.
They are. So please have a look at the website. Have a look at the games that are available this Thursday. I beg your pardon. Make sure that you're there. If you are, you're down at Mabley Green at the times designated on the website. And for the rest of you, have a look at Mabley Green on the Monday. The fixtures will be posted up there in due course. All the teams will get the relevant emails and information as it comes. But that's the way the situation is. Nothing we can do about it right now. But as Nanu said, we are working very closely with the powers that be to rectify all problems and get us back to playing at a fantastic venue, which is Mabley Green, and have all the pitches up and running. Right, I want to get my teeth into something now. Now, how many of you watched the Euro Champs? Now, of course we did. Whether you're an England supporter or not, you watched it. And you may have watched every game, and every game was seamless and fantastic because, as I'm going to say, and you probably didn't notice, because all the referees were fantastic. Nothing went wrong. And if the referees weren't any good, you would notice. But how many of you noticed that from the 1st of June, a lot of the laws changed in football? Some were big changes, some were very small things, some are just word changes. In fact, if I told you that there were 95 changes to law in football, you might think that I would be messing with you, but I'm not. So how do these things get implemented? How do teams react to some of that? And what's going to happen in the new season? Are you waiting until you see something on Match of the Day before you believe it's real? I'm going to turn to you, Anil. As a club captain, and it's not a test, but I'm just going to ask you honestly, how much of it are you aware of as a club, as a player?
Not of 95 law changes, but just a few that I think the ones that were most apparent from the Euros.
So which are the ones that are, because the ones that are obvious to you are probably obvious to everyone, and they're the ones that everyone thinks, well, it's just these 4 or 5 and there's nothing else. So what are the ones that are obvious to you?
The one from kick-off, you can now pass it backwards as opposed to having to pass it forwards. I think there's a law change with regards to triple punishment. So if a player's through on goal, and I think if he's fouled in the box,
so denying the opposite goal scoring opportunity.
So he's not necessarily going to be sent off for that. I think there are a couple others. You can be sent off before a game starts potentially, or a substitute. But I think they're the few that I'm aware of.
It is very, very dodgy, and I know a lot of you out there. I'm not going to try and trip you up, but I am going to mention a few. And because there are so many, we don't have to go through all of them because a lot of them are technical and very boring to you. But there are going to be some, and in the ILFL, a lot of these could have been implemented for the Summer League, but deliberately were not, because we're saving it for the Winter League to make sure that everybody is up to speed, because it didn't seem to make sense, Nanu, for some teams to be aware, some referees to be aware, and not everybody. So everybody can start on a level playing field when the season starts. And would that be the right way for it to be approached?
It has to be the right way. I mean, you can't just change the culture overnight. I mean, it's just not going to register with players. The laws of the game, they're not the easiest to understand. Not many people do understand. Referees understand, they study for it, they have to go through the exams, and then And and if you pass the exams, you have to go through the trials and make sure that you get assessed and everything. So there's a bit of a rigor in that process. But for somebody who comes in on a Sunday and just wants to play football, I mean, how is he going to know this? But some of the obvious ones that you mentioned, I mean, even rugby players would know these anyway, because they're out on the media. But those 92 other law changes, we don't expect those teams to know this overnight, because you need to study for them. And
do you know what? I would even say, even before there were any law changes, I would say pretty confidently here that a lot of teams didn't know the laws before the changes.
No.
Is this just for the adult league?
It's for everything. It's right across the board in football.
That's interesting, because when I'm teaching the youngsters, how many coaches are going to deliver the rules to the youngsters? And not much coaches know about it. So I think it's for everyone, no matter what level you're playing. And no matter what, coaches as well, no matter what level you're coaching, the youngsters, the adults.
It is quite a difficult one. Like I said, because there are so many changes and they all came into force on the 1st of June, you would hope that it would give everybody a lot of time to be sitting in. But who is sitting down in the summer with a book, with a 200-page book, going through that? But as referees, most of us do. I'll tell you what we're going to do. I'm just going to run a few by us all. All right, run by us all, and we're just going to throw it up in the air and talk about what we think it should be, what would be expected, and then we'll see if that's what it is. So there are some. How are they going to affect players? In grassroots football, we know some of the times some of the biggest problems is you turn up for a pitch, the referee's there, it's a 10:30 kickoff. If you haven't got X amount of players on the pitch by so-and-so, it's off. Now, season before, it was 8 players. You need to have 8 players on the pitch. That's changed. So how many players do you need to have on that pitch before the referee can tell you you've got to start now, Anil? Are you aware?
I think it's 7.
It is 7.
Yeah.
It is 7. And a lot of teams will contest that, but I want everybody out there to know that if you turn up for a kickoff, the referee has every right to give you a certain amount of grace, and if you've got 7 players, he can instruct you to come on the pitch. And if you don't, it's a forfeit. It's that simple.
Okay, so you're saying 7 players. That's the new rules now. Now, what if the competition decides to change the rule, because they're allowed to do that?
There is, and that's another thing, and that's when we talk about checking competition rules. The ILFL is a competition in itself. So if the ILFL states that it's a minimum of 8, then it's a minimum of 8, because competition rules have changed slightly.
But of course, ILFL will be closely aligned to the FA.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it will be 7 players. So those of you sometimes who don't like to get up too early and struggle to support your teammates for an early kickoff, don't let it be you. Don't let it be you who's at fault for letting your team down. This is a short section because we have to break very early, but I'm just going to give you one, and I'm going to leave it with you now. You heard Anil mention it a little bit earlier. So the player goes through on goal, and he's tripped just outside the box by the last defender. What would you expect the referee to do? Is it still a red card or is it not? Don't answer that, guys. I'm going to leave that with you guys out there to think about it, ponder it, talk about it. And don't forget, we've got Facebook, we've got Twitter. You can run these conversations all the time with us, and we'll do our best to answer all of your queries. You can even do it tonight, live. If you've got any queries on it, run them by me now, and I'll do my best to answer them. We'll be back after this short break on the ILFL Soccer Night Show. See you shortly.